Francisco Bay Area. It's time for Zig in the Zone with Ralph Zig Tycho.
I am back. You are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California. I am pleased to be here because I get to talk to Paulie B.
Hey!
And I got it right.
Yeah.
And a first-time guest coming up. So I'll introduce him in a minute. Let me chat with Paulie for a minute. So how you doing, Paulie B?
I'm doing good, Ziggy. What's happening with you, big dog?
Well, I'm breaking in a new pair of kicks and walking with a limp, but that's all right. I'll live through that.
Here, come here. I got my big dog up here. I don't know if we can see him, but there's the big dog. We got the big dog in the house.
The
We
big
got Ace
dog.
in the
How
house.
you doing?
There we go.
Most mellow dog inside. He's very mellow.
And it's
Outside,
funny, he knew his cue. He literally knew I was talking about him, came around. I don't know if you saw it, but he came around from the couch, came around here, and then jumped up here, did his little thing, then went back down and went over to the couch to lay down.
That's a great dog.
Dog knows his mark, knows his cue. I wish these old dogs knew their mark and their cue. But it's good to see you along for the ride. I see you're in the mobile studio.
I am in the studio, Mobile. We got opening day coming Friday, and I got an invitation for both of us to join our guest, Charles, and I'm gonna have trouble with this. Who named you? Charles Francia.
Fracchia.
Fracchia.
There's two C's in there.
There are.
Okay, so I didn't know how to pronounce it.
I understand. You're not the first. You won't be the last.
All right, please forgive me because
No problem.
at least I got the Charles right.
You did.
All right, give me some credit.
Absolutely.
Charles, you and I have a lot in common. When I was a kid, I was an avid autograph collector. And living in New York, I get to go down in hockey season, baseball season, basketball season, and football season. And we plan it out, what, who's going to be in, get pictures of them ready, have self-addressed envelopes to ourselves, so they could send something if they chose later on. We did it up right. So I understand your passion of being an autograph collector.
I am still an autograph collector. It has never gone away. Part of me just likes the challenge of it. Part of me is like, I do like project stuff, which is different from, there are collectors who do project stuff and there are collectors who collect autographs to sell them. I am not one of those people who sells them. I basically hold on to them. But my first autograph project, I think, and it was not my first autograph, was I had a 1979 Giants media guide because I fell in love with the 1978 Giants team, which was a fun team. And I was hanging out with a couple friends, and we were looking through the Sunday paper, and we saw Willie McCovey was going to do an autograph signing. And this was back in 1980. He had just retired that year. We didn't know what players did in the off season or if they were going to sign or whatever. But he was doing an autograph signing at a sports card show. It was $5 at that point in time. And I talked I was at a hotel in downtown San Francisco, and I talked my buddies into going, and the three of us all went. And he was very nice and very tall and very quiet, and he signed my media guide. and I didn't really like think about it or know what to do with it, or I just kind of held on to it. And then kind of like it kind of was like the little pebble at the top of the hill that was snow, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the autograph project kind of became that. And then there were years when I didn't do anything about it. I didn't do much stuff in high school. I didn't do much stuff in college. And then kind of after college, I kind of got back into it. And lucky for me, the media guide only has the 40-man roster and the coaches and the manager and the GM. Because I think if it had the whole organization, I probably would have said, yeah, I'm not going to do this. So I kind of in a way lucked out.
Why bite off more than you can chew?
Exactly. And I find it weird that I started in the pre-internet era, which was a lot more difficult as opposed to the kind of post-internet era where you can find guys' addresses, you can find out if somebody's doing a show. You know, it was just, the internet era was easier, but I kind of also appreciate the challenge of the pre-internet era.
Right. Well, the pre-internet era made it more fun because, as you say, it wasn't a business at that point. Who was your first autograph after McCovey when you decided to make it a project, as it were?
I'm trying to remember because McCovey was 80, so it was probably, oh God, I'm trying to think. I don't know because there were, I think maybe it was Rob Andrews, who lived up in Concord. He was a kind of a backup second baseman.
Yes.
And I don't advocate this now at all, but I kind of found his address. Went to a card show in Concord, and it was kind of, I think it was like 94. It was during the strike, so that was kind of depressing anyway. And I kind of just showed up at his house and rang his doorbell and said, yeah, I'm really sorry. And I always try to be polite. I always say please. I always say thank you. That was how my mom raised me. I also would have great fear that if I wasn't polite, my mom would come back and haunt me. So I'm have that.
Well,
and I always say please and thank you. And I was like, could you please sign my media guide? I'm sorry to bother you. And and he was like, yeah, I'll sign it. And he goes, he looked at me and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll sign it. But he had a brother who what's his name? I can't remember his name. He played for the A's and I think the Red Sox. But Rob Andrews had Mike Andrews, who got fired from the A's because he made an error in the Charlie Finley kind of playoff era. And so, but he said, well,
listeners and you, the Mike Andrews situation with Charlie is well documented in my friend's book, Nancy Finley.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Oh, so you know her.
I do know her. We are
absolutely.
We're good Facebook friends.
Good. Then, and I'd like to recommend that everybody read her book because it's very well documented, and she doesn't pull punches. Nancy's a wonderful woman.
So Rob asked me, he goes, well, could you make a contribution to my brother, to the Jimmy Fund that my brother is the head of with the Red Sox? And so I gave him $10 and he signed my media guide and I thanked him and went on my merry way and was like, because I never like to bother people at home, but it was like, I happened to be in Concord.
One of those things.
Yeah.
One of those
and
things.
I also figure as long as I'm polite and say please and thank you and, that's it. So.
Okay. Did you ever learn about these players in depth after getting their autograph? And was it a good situation where, wow, I learned this guy did so-and-so? Was it enriching to you?
Yeah, I always tried to get a little bit of background information before I contacted them, so I knew kind of what they did kind of after baseball. Like Roger Metzger, who was traded for the Giants in the middle of the '78 season.
Played with Houston, got his fingers cut off.
Exactly. But after he was done with baseball, he became a school teacher.
Oh, really?
So, but I always would try to write them a letter and say, I remember seeing you play, and could you please send my media guide? And I would always include a return envelope back. Basically the way
Did you ever wonder how Metzger would open the envelope without the fingers? Did that occur?
I just figured he would do it, or he could pull it up, or
Oh, okay.
So
I'm just being silly. Actually, I knew it'd be okay, and I worried about that for a few minutes.
Well, and I remember when he came back with the Giants, and it was like I felt badly for him. I mean, it's like I always want to have compassion for players, and if they get hurt or whatever.
Oh, of course.
And that was kind of like a really kind of odd accident type thing. And
I wonder how Jorvecki's accident affected you, being a Giant fan.
Oh man, I don't remember if I listened to the game, but it was all over the news afterwards. And I remember, God, a couple years ago, I'm on the concourse, and I see Dave there, and he's with his family, and I yelled out, "Hey, Dave!" And he came over to talk to me, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt time with your family or whatever." He kind of was like, "I see them all the time. I'm appreciative that there's a fan who remembers me."
Oh, nice.
So I was like, I thought that was kind of like really cool of him, and I was like, at the same time, I also kind of felt like guilty for like kind of calling him away from his family. I also think I was probably the only guy in the concourse who knew who he was and knew his story.
Right.
So, it's
what I really admire about him, he wrote 2 books.
Right.
The second of which was realistic, and it was You Can't Come Back. When You Can't Come Back, I think was the name of it. And I admire a guy or a woman or anyone, doesn't have to be an athlete, who can put themselves out there in one way or the other. And our ideologies differ, he and I, no question about that.
Right.
But my respect for him grew when he showed that he was vulnerable, that it wasn't just another book to sell a book.
Right. No, I think I read that book, and he really kind of put his heart into it. And, I think, they say that athletes, they die 2 deaths. And the first is when they can no longer play anymore. And then the second one is, in kind of real life.
Right.
And I think that's sort of the case. And I think, you want to be able to walk away on your own terms, I think, in some respects, as an athlete, professional athlete anyway. And, and sometimes you don't always get that choice.
No question.
No
question. How about your own life? How's that been going? What's going on with you? I noticed on your Facebook you have a beautiful family that seems loving.
My 3 sisters, and they all have kids. I was married, got divorced, had no kids. I'm fine with that. Not everybody's life is complete with having kids and whatever. I love my sisters. I get along well with them. I don't always hear from them a lot. They kind of look at my baseball kind of passion and kind of are like, enjoy yourself, kind of. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. So
nice. I've had women in my life that have been supportive of cutting pictures out and making decoupages. I remember a woman, don't remember which woman, but she did that, made a decoupage. I'll digress just a little bit from baseball to basketball.
Okay.
I'm sure you haven't heard it. My listeners, 10 years doing this, have probably heard it 12 times. But I'm going to tell the story again. As I told you before the show or during the show, I used to go down for autographs when I was a kid.
Right.
And picked up the Boston Celtics. It wasn't at the Biltmores or the Roosevelt. Can't think of what hotel. It's been 65 years.
Yeah.
So you'll excuse my dotage. I picked him up walking from there to the Garden as a kid, 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he was with Wayne Embry, who had come over from Cincinnati to the Celtics. He was one of those guys, and the Celtics had won every year. An old veteran, Willie Knowles, Don Nelson, I think, was at that point. Embry certainly was. Last guy, Carl Braun, was a Celtic for a while, just giving their tutelage and being the 12th man on the roster, that kind of thing. Yeah. So he and Bill Russell will walk into the stadium together. So Bill Russell's gone. I think Embry's still alive. He'll remember this. Bill Russell didn't sign autographs in his day.
No, I remember hearing that.
He wouldn't sign for teammates. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're walking. I said, Mr. Russell, I know that you have to get to the stadium because your ritual is that you're going to throw up before every game because of your nerves. And I want you to know that you're playing the Knicks tonight and Charlie Tyree is the center. You don't have to throw up. You're going to kick his ass, right? He cackles. I say, and he shakes his head like, I shouldn't be laughing, right? I said, and I should ask you while you're in a good mood, will you please sign this to Ralph, best wishes? I had the balls as a 16-year-old kid to say to Ralph, best wishes, not just sign Bill Russell, knowing he didn't sign. He says, okay. And he takes the thing, and that's the picture that was decoupaged, and I still have it. It wasn't to Ralph best wishes, but it was scribbled to Ralph, Bill Russell.
That's cool.
I was happy. It wasn't the autograph so much. It was the interaction, as I'm sure you found out throughout.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The look in their eye, whether they are doing it to appease you or like the case with Dravecki, meeting someone.
Right. It means something, you know. It means something to the player, but it depends on the player. And it depends if you go up there with like, you know, a dozen cards, could you please sign these cards? You know, then it doesn't mean anything. And if you go up there with like, I got Madison Bumgarner last year because I was working on a project of Willie Mack Award winners on Baseballs by Decade. And I needed him. And I went up to him and I was like, you know, and he was there meeting with, I think he was there with Pat Burrell, somebody. But it was outside the stadium. And I said, you know, could you please sign my baseball? I've got Willie Mack Award winners. He goes, yeah, I'll sign. You know, and I was like, but I appreciated that. And I was like, you know, that's why I say please and that's why I say thank you. Because I want them to know that it kind of means something more to me.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story of autograph collecting. I went down for Detroit one year, coming in to play the Yankees. I got a fellow by the name of Ron Nishwitz.
Okay.
Never heard of him. I'm sure, but he wrote, and my friends and I laughed about this for years afterwards. He wrote to Ralph, best wishes, good luck, have a great school year, don't forget to root for Detroit. He wrote an encyclopedia,
Yeah.
right? So I'm on Facebook 50 years, 60 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Nishwitz is on. Either that or somebody gave me his name. I do podcasts, as you know,
Right.
so I'm always looking to interview people. I don't remember how I came across it. I got to talking to him. I still have the Ron Nishwitz card. It was one of those picture postcards that, and he told me how that was. He says, there's a car right there. It was for a car dealership. And I want you to know, I appreciate it that you saved the stuff because I really meant it for the kids. He was not just in it for the bucks.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have that interaction years later. So autographs aren't just important to you, important to me and my memories. I collected an awful lot that I end up when I was not destitute, but needed the bucks.
Right.
Sold a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Recollected the collection a little bit. Had to sell those over the course of a lifetime.
I had that happen once. I put together a 1965 Topps baseball set, and the economy turned, and I
right. Well, for whatever reason,
yeah.
life runs like a Frank Sinatra song.
Yeah.
Riding high in April, shot down in May, and that's the way life is. And if you're a real baseball fan, you could get to see the dichotomy of how life and baseball, one is a microcosm of another.
Absolutely.
But if you study human nature, if you like people or dislike people, whatever.
A couple of my favorite autographs that I got, in my collection. I have a dealer, a promoter who does shows out of St. Louis. And one show, he was getting Glenn Brummer. And most of you don't know who Glenn Brummer is. He was a backup catcher. He was on their 82 World Series team. And at one point, the Cardinals were playing the Giants. And he basically you'd think this guy has no speed, which he didn't. But he stole home in the bottom of the ninth inning against the Giants for the winning run. And what was I? I was probably 16, 17. I was pissed. I was so angry with that. The fact that he stole home and he's probably one of the slowest guys on their team. And this is a team that had Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee, and they had speed on their team. And I'm so years later I see, he's really an autograph show. So I reach out to the promoter and I'm like, I want to get an autograph picture of Glenn Brummer, but I want a special inscription on it. And the guy goes, yeah, $5 more, $10 more, we'll do the special inscription. So the inscription I wrote him and I said, that I got from Glenn Brummer was, to Charles, best wishes. I'm sorry my blazing speed pissed you off so much. Glenn Brummer. And I absolutely love that. It's one of my, it's one of the quirks in my collection. I'm I love that. I'm
absolutely.
Great. I think it's absolutely great. And then the other one I got was Fritz Peterson, who was known for, in the early 70s, this is the early 70s, trading his wife and kids to another Yankee pitcher. I can't remember who. I'm blanking on the name. And for his wife and kids. And then Fritz Peterson ended up being married to this guy's wife for like years and years and years. Passed away, I think, a year or two ago. But I saw him at a show, and he was like the nicest guy. And I found some book on eBay about how they had traded families. And so so I'm like, Fritz, I found this book. Could you please sign it? And he goes, to Charles, thanks for taking away my horrible wife. Best wishes, Fritz Peters. That just cracked me up.
That's beautiful.
Oh man,
that's beautiful.
Like
I've had Fritz Peterson on my podcast a number of times. One time with Marty Appel, and they told a story about the day that Fritz Peterson broke had the lowest ERA of any pitcher who ever pitched in Yankee Stadium. And Marty Appel was the public relations guy at that time. And he, Fritz, and I had a three-way conversation of what that was like. And it's on YouTube. Just Google it, Marty Appel, Fritz Peterson, and
I'll have to look.
Please do. It's a great interview. Fritz was a charming guy, just out of the blue, gets Alzheimer's disease, and his mind left within years.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember being really kind of sad about that because he was so nice at the show that I met him at.
One of those really good guys. He would tease me. I was a Met fan, and he teased me about the Mets. And he just, we really got along on the air, as I do with most. I'm not saying it because it's my charm.
Right.
It's my ability to pick guys or women who I'd relate to and who I would like. And you're one of them. So
I appreciate you letting me be on the show, and thank you so much.
Okay. Paulie, how we doing time-wise?
We're doing really well. We're at 28 minutes, almost 29.
Okay.
And your mic just started giving a little bit of a problem, but it's still okay.
Okay, still okay though, am I correct?
That is correct.
All right.
You're starting to get a little bit of feedback, but it's pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to take the liberty then to speak a little, and if you join the conversation, as we've been doing, Paulie and I, we've been getting feedback from all of our guests. There's most of them sports related, but for whatever reason, we're all living the same horror show with what's going on. And let me ask you, what do you foresee happening? What do you think we can do? I know you don't have the give up type mentality. Right, I could tell that.
Yeah.
You went to some guy's house.
Yeah.
So
that's the only time I've done that though. Either.
No, right. Right. My point is, hey, I was an insurance salesman, and my grandfather told me there's no one with endurance like the man who sells insurance. And going to homes and asking and putting yourself out there and talking to people, you'd have been a great insurance salesman. Thank God for you that you didn't get to go through that. But when it's good, it's great. And what's going on? What's going on in the world?
It's difficult to see. It's difficult to watch. You probably don't know my work background previously. I worked in credit card fraud for 10 years. I loved it. It was fun. It was interesting. Part of it was finding credit card fraud victims who didn't know they were, fraud victims.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like I have a certain amount of ethics. I tried to, prior to that, I did credit card collections for a year, which is really difficult. But I always try to be kind to people. I try to be nice to people. I try to be polite to people. Not always easy in collections, I'll tell you that. But it's like, now I watch this and I'm like, and it's like, I don't see kindness. I don't see, anything like that. I see this kind of dreadful behavior. And I'm not going to say on both sides, because I think it's largely Republican. And when you'll support somebody who at a huge gathering says, is making fun of somebody who's handicapped, I can't tolerate that. I won't tolerate it. Who has a history of shady business dealings, I'm like, later on in my life, I ended up taking care of my mother who had cancer and who had, was basically dying. And she would send me to the grocery store and she'd give me cash and she'd give me her list and off I would go and I'd get everything on the list because I didn't want to not get everything on the list. And I would come back and she kind of like noticed that I would get a little not testy, but kind of testy. Okay. And she looked at me one day after, and she goes, "You always come back and you look ticked off. Why is that?" And I said, "You never look at, I give you all the change back and you never look at the receipt and you never look at kind of, the money that I'm giving you back." And she looked at me and she goes, "God, you're so honest, you squeak." And it was the nicest compliment I ever got from my mom. And I'm like, and I look at this administration, they're like, they're not nice, they're not honest, it's just so difficult to watch. And I'm like, and to see how people kind of react to it, is just, it's dreadful. I also think like going into, some government agency and firing a bunch of people for no legitimate reason. I mean, yes, you want to get rid of fraud, but it's like you want to do it in a rational way, not clear cutting a forest. And I look at that and I'm like, so you're going to wreck people's lives without any kind of background information and just do this and screw people over. And it's what they do. And I'm like, and it amazes me that after dealing with the first time that he was president, how much of a disaster that was, that there are people who thought, yeah, I want to do this again, for whatever reason.
How about a woman that lost Roe v. Wade as the result of his Supreme Court nominees?
Yep.
And he was happy about it. How about a man, like you mentioned, the handicapped guy tells it all? You know what I've been noticing about you and a lot of my friends? The anger that we felt in the first 2 months early on, right, has more or less turned to sadness. And we have a certain knowing about us that things are not going to be all right. They're never going to be back to where they were. There is so much to fix now with our allies, with and how it could have gotten to this point. I have a joking meme on Facebook ongoing that shows a Republican woman. The title is Republican Woman, and she's got a punching bag on it, and she's punching herself. But it's not just women. The people who lost Roe v. Wade, men lost a lot by women losing Roe v. Wade.
Absolutely. I grew up with 3 sisters. I love my sisters.
Oh, so
I want them to have the same rights I have. You know, I've got a bunch of nieces. I want them to have the same rights I have. I want them to be successful in life. I want them to be happy in life. It's not, you know.
Hey, and we're coming into this before Trump, when women still only get 75% of what they should in terms of their earnings. So it's
absolutely. Some of my best friends, women who are women, and it's like, you know, did I want to sleep with them? You know, because you get this kind of generalization. Oh, you're only friends with it because you want to sleep with. No, it's like I genuinely like these people. The best supervisor I ever had at work was a woman. I loved her. I loved working for her. I knew what was expected of me. I worked hard for her. She was a kind person, too.
Well, as you were, so you related to her. And you relate to us. Thanks for being here.
You're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
I just wanted to get your impression of what was going on. And it wasn't the fact so much, we've lost this much money. It's the spirit of the country, and you and my listeners and my guests all seem to recognize that. So
it's that lack of kindness thing that just, it hurts. It hurts to look at. It hurts to see. It's, you know, it's like I always try to be kind to everybody. Basically, I feel like I want to say, until they're not kind to me. But, you know, there's that sense of, you know, I want to be nice to people, you know, because I don't know what they're going through. And I don't know how difficult their lives are, and I don't know what they've experienced. But to me, it's like the bottom line was always, I want to be kind to other people. And I think it was something I got from my mother, but I also got from my mother that to be kind of brutally honest, too. One of the things I loved about my mother was not a baseball fan, but she loved the fact that I loved baseball. And I, you know, would watch games with her. I watched Matt Cain's, you know, part of Matt Cain's perfect game with her. And she goes, well, can you tell me what's happening? I said, I can't till the end of the game. And she goes, but you'll still tell me, right? I was like, yeah. Because I didn't want to, I felt like I didn't want to spoil it. I was superstitious in there.
Right.
So.
Hey, thanks again. I need to talk to Paulie about sending a shout out to the people who are supporting us at Zig in the Zone.
Absolutely.
So, would you promise to come back another time?
Absolutely. I would be thrilled to. I'm always happy to talk about, you know, the Giants. You know.
Absolutely. We can talk about my Mets my troubles.
And the Mets.
Here's my thing. If you say the expression, never walk a mile, never judge me until you walk a mile in my boat shoes, then you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I do want to ask Charles before he goes, and your mic is really crapping out. So I've been collecting baseball cards for years. And I've actually got cases of stuff from like 87 to 93 that are still wax packs or full complete sets. And I don't know which years have what rookies. When I start opening these packs, I'd like to be able to go right from the pack to a protector sleeve.
Right. Or what I do is I have complete Topps Giants team sets that I have in binders.
So in photo binders, like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's a good, cheap, easy way to keep things organized.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't degrade the card. Do you have to worry about the type of plastic?
No, actually, they used to have these really kind of. Early on, they had, you know, plastic pages that would age, you know, end up stiff and kind of thick and would yellow. And I think with technology now the pages have gotten a lot better.
Okay, so you don't see that UV degrading and stuff like that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think now. I think early on, yes, but not now.
Not now. Okay, great.
So,
Again, Charles, where do we catch up with what you're doing? Give us a shout out. Where's your socials? Where
right
you
now,
at?
I'm kind of unemployed and sort of looking for work, and I kind of want to get back into working in fraud. I worked for a media outlet dealing with consumer issues after I got out of credit card fraud, and now I'm kind of like, I would want to basically kind of be a consultant.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is the name of your consultancy between sports memorabilia and the other stuff that you've done, in your day job? So you should definitely be doing stuff like that.
I agree. And I will still help my friends out with fraud. If they have a fraud issue or a consumer issue, I will help them out as well.
Well, don't worry. About 56% of the country is currently being defrauded by our own government. So you have plenty of fish in the barrel to shoot.
I know.
So, again, Charles, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it. And, if you want to invite me back on, I'd be happy to join you again.
Absolutely. Would love to have you back on. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
All right, I lost my picture, but thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Ralph. Have a great day.
All right, I made other plans.
Sure you have. All right, so yeah, I do see that you. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate you. So I do see that you have your picture down below. So
I screwed it up again. I don't know.
So I'm going to call you back on the other line while I'm pitching the studio. Thank you again, Charles. All right. So what we're going to do here, guys, is while I'm reaching out to Ziggy, I'm going to tell you what Edge Studios Online can do for you. As you can see, Ralph is in his mobile studio in Alameda, California. Sometimes he's able to make it to the studio. Sometimes he's not, but that's okay. We can live with that. But what we do is we can help you out. If it is, we can help you in your mobile studio in Alameda. We can help you in your mother's basement in Montana. We can help you in another country. We've helped people in, we've helped people in Thailand. We've helped people around the globe get their content out there. So if you guys are trying to do this, and you want to be able to create, and you don't have the technology, but you have the desire and the will, reach out to us at Edge Studios Online. That's right. You can send us an email at edgestudiosonline@gmail.com, or you can call the studio line at 650-503-3435. Leave us a message. Let us know what you're trying to accomplish, and we can help you out. And again, you could come in here and do a self-serve, like an Airbnb studio. Come in with a digital code. You log in and you stream out to all your socials simultaneously. And when you hit finish, your finished product is sitting on your page. There's no post-editing. There's no other interfacing with anybody else. It's your content, and you can walk away with it free. Just like Zig here. Zig doesn't even have to be sitting in our studio. When we hit finish on this, it's already on his socials. All he has to do is go and share it and save it, and that's what we're talking about. Ziggy, I'm glad to see you back, sir.
I am back, and my technology skills are as they always were. That they haven't deteriorated at all, and
and they've not gotten better. Well, no, they've gotten better.
They haven't gotten better, but
you've
what
gotten
are you
a little
do?
bit better. Matter of fact, you have gotten a little better.
I try.
Right.
That I promise you. I want to send a shout out. More than a shout out, I want to send Andrew Doza, who is one of the attorneys who sponsors us. How much I've already given him a number of folks who can use his help. And on behalf of Comfortably Zoned, and I feel good about that. Andrew Doza has done me right for all of my life, all of my adult life in Alameda. 25 years of knowing him. He's been on the show. If you're looking for an attorney who is upfront, ethical, and really good, he really knows his craft, I invite you to talk to Andrew Doza. He's here in town. And if you're looking for pizza, New York Pizza on Park Street, still, all these years later, they take care of me. Still good. So those are my two shout outs for the day. On a sad note, Jerry Feidelberg is in hospice, and Marty Rose continues to be in hospice. I lost a dear friend, David Hirsch, in January. So life as an old guy isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be. Paulie, you're healthy. Makes me feel good.
Yeah, it makes me feel good too, buddy, that you're there and we're doing what we're doing here at Edge Studios, what we're doing with Zig in the Zone. We're able to express ourselves, and it's great to have such a partner in crime, buddy. Thank you for being a part of this.
You echo me. Great to have a partner in crime, and it isn't just that. We have the same ideology and the same sense of humor. So we're doing okay, Paulie B.
Yes, we are, sir. Yes, we are. So
We're
at that point. Hey, Ace, we're out of here. Come here, buddy. You know, come do your cue, your last minute cue. Come on up. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right, for myself, Ace, and look at that. He totally knows his cue. What are you doing? What are you doing? For myself, the dog, and the dog over there in Alameda. We'll see you next time in the zone, folks.
I'm not a dog, I'm a dog.
You a dog. D-O-double-G. We out.